After a slow start, harvest picks up steam. We will have the latest on where things stand. And farmers may feel pressure to cut corners. We'll share some important safety reminders. And you could call it a steak mistake. Ordering beef at a New England seafood place, a local FFA teacher tells the story. All that and more on NTV's Grow, starting right now. Harvest has been a little slow going after recent rains. The latest USDA report says corn harvest still trails behind the average for this time of year. 40% is harvested, but the average is usually closer to 60%. The soybean harvest is 87% complete, just shy of average, and 94% of winter wheat has emerged, ahead of the 5-year average of 87%. Meanwhile, in Kansas, unseasonably warm fall weather is spurring rapid growth of the emerging winter wheat crop. The Kansas Agricultural Statistics Service says about 87% of the 2015 wheat crop has now been planted and 72% emerged. About 65% of that crop is rated good or excellent. Above normal temperatures are also allowing the fall harvest to progress in Kansas. About 78% of the corn has been cut, along with about 52% of soybeans. Farming is an important but dangerous job, and with harvest running behind schedule, it's important not to cut corners and always put safety first. Here's more. Harvest involves two of the most dangerous industries, farming and truck driving. It's a rewarding time of year to bring that crop in and do it safely.
I love what I do. These farmers, they are great people.
Looking on as a customer picks corn, it's Lacey Seibert's job at Cargill to help farmers with their business decisions. And staying safe is good business for everyone.
Keeping safety in the forefront of everybody's mind, because it's easy to get complacent if you've been doing it for years and years.
Farmers may try to hurry things along after weather delayed harvest.
I think that heightens the pressure, and it makes them feel like they got to go that much quicker to get things done before, like, the corn starts falling over or whatever it may be that they're facing.
Harvest is especially dangerous because of the long hours and the equipment. There are simple things that can make a difference.
When you get in the combine with a farmer, reminding them that if they have little kids in there, make sure they're buckled up. They're not riding against the windshield, or when you're out here and somebody's going to jump in with you, make sure you shut everything off. I mean, I know it takes a few extra minutes, but it makes a difference. You would hate for something to happen to that person. Farming is consistently among the most dangerous jobs, and so is trucking. And anymore, many farmers use big semis and may not have the same training as over-the-road drivers. You could have a very inexperienced driver driving a big semi on the road, and it's a pretty dangerous thing. Lacey says Cargill is serious about safety at its grain elevators and on the farms where that crop is grown. It's most important at the end of the day that they come home safely to their families and they can farm another day. If kids are around during harvest, make sure they're supervised. And one last tip, pretty much every farmer has a cell phone. Safety experts say use that phone and call and check in with family occasionally to let them know how everything's going. Grain bins and dryers also pose hazards. Multiple fire departments responded to a grain dryer fire at Hall County this past week between Wood River and Caro. And emergency responders in Aurora say they dealt with a grain bin fire this week also. The University of Nebraska says accumulation of grain dust can create flammable, even explosive situations. Make sure ventilation systems work and that electrical connections are up to code. We are in the middle of harvest right now, but it's never too early to start thinking about the next growing season. And the University of Nebraska invites you to consider being part of on-farm research projects. The Nebraska On-Farm Research Network provides an opportunity for growers to get questions answered about their own fields. Research typically is conducted with the producer's equipment on the producer's land and using the producer's management practices. For more information on the project or how to participate, contact your local UNL Extension office or the Nebraska Corn
or soybean board. Would you pay more for your meat if you knew where it came from? That's at the heart of a dispute between the United States with Canada and Mexico. The World Trade Organization just ruled in favor of Canada and Mexico, finding that the new mandatory country of origin labels in the United States are hurting business in nearby countries.
We basically have increased the cost of importing those animals because you have to do more segregation and tracking and labeling of livestock from foreign origins because we have to do that on the final retail product.
The labels require producers to identify where the meat came from. They were first implemented in 2009 and got even more specific in 2013. But research from Kansas State University found no evidence that consumers want these labels or would pay more for them.
One of the things we found before in our prior work was the majority of the public didn't even know we had origin labeling. And the reason I note that is if that's still the case, and until proven otherwise, I think that's still the case, it's hard to convince me that changing the details of it is going to lead to an increase in demand if you don't know that the label exists.
The U.S. now has 60 days to respond. They could appeal the decision, change the labels to voluntary, get rid of the rule altogether, or keep the rule as it is and face trade penalties from other countries. They're a key part of the growing process, bees, and now officials are trying to keep those populations healthy. 1/3 of human food crops need pollinators like honeybees to help them grow. The North American Pollinator Protection Campaign hosted a conference at the USDA to talk about the challenges facing pollinators.
We can't eliminate all of the stresses on bees and what they're experiencing right now, but we can identify and mitigate some of those stresses. Many projects are underway working on native bees and honeybees to understand these problems, but much more needs to be done.
Domestic honeybees pollinate approximately $10 billion worth of crops in the U.S. each year. The last 2 weeks have helped the crop dry out, and as you travel gravel roads in the area, you're sure to see plenty of grain trucks and combines at work.
Just have to wait for trucks and grain carts is the only problem right now.
Picking corn on Halloween is a trick and a treat for farmers like Tyson Shimmer. The trick is getting slowed down in line at the grain elevator.
The elevators are a little backed up right these days with everybody going at once.
The treat is dry weather to get caught up after a slow start to the corn harvest.
With the weather drying out these last 2 weeks, it really helped create a drier crop so that we can start getting it moved out of the fields.
Tyson coordinates the combine demos at Husker Harvest Days, which were rained out. It's been wetter than normal in many areas, but farmers are now making progress.
Dried down to where it's not even sticking to the wheels. It's actually good harvesting conditions right now.
The weather's a concern, but the bigger issue is the lingering slump in commodity prices.
Those who are managing things properly, it's not going to hurt them terribly. It's not going to be good, but it's not going to be great.
Nationwide, it looks like an above-average harvest. It's hard to get a full picture with many states, including Nebraska, behind schedule. But farmers like Tyson are doing their best to get caught up.
Slow and steady. It's looking pretty decent. You know, those areas that haven't been hit by adverse weather this summer, which we had quite a bit of. A decent year, not a great year or a bad year, just a good year.
The latest government report shows we're a little less than halfway done with the corn harvest at this point, but many farmers believe as we close out October and get into November that we will be wrapping up things pretty soon. Kansas feedlots are growing slightly. That's according to the USDA. As of October 1st, Kansas feedlots contained a little more than 2 million cattle on feed, up 1% from the same time last year. The numbers only include feedlots with 1,000 or more head. Meanwhile, another Nebraska county is designated livestock friendly. This week, Governor Heineman announced Knox County earned that designation through the Nebraska Department of Agriculture. Knox County now joins 28 other counties, including Merritt County and Dawson County, as livestock friendly through the state program. Department of Ag officials say the official designation makes a positive statement about each county's commitment to rural economic development through livestock production. And congratulations to the Dawson County Meats judging team, placing in the top 10 at Nationals. Looking at pictures of the team, the Dawson County 4-H Meats team placed 10th overall at the National 4-H Meats contest held at Kansas State University and the American Royal. Leaders in Dawson County say the county has a strong history of 4-H meats judging and identification at the county, state, and national levels, bringing livestock production full circle from the farm to the plate. Young leaders from across the state will gather soon in Kearney. It's the 2014 Connecting Young Nebraskans Summit. The event is hosted by a team of young leaders from the Tri-City region and coordinated by the Rural Futures Institute. The full-day summit will be Friday, November 7th in Kearney. It's hard to go wrong ordering steak here in the beef state, but in New England, we'll hear one man's adventure with what we're calling the steak mistake coming up next.